ChatGPT have just released their API, and here is a tour of my Bubble app, which I've set up to make use of the conversational nature and abilities of ChatGPT. What I mean by that is the ability, if we look at the documentation here, that once you ask a question and you get an answer back, you can ask a follow-up question, and ChatGPT is aware of the previous points and previous text of the conversation that's come before your current prompt. So we can see this is how ChatGPT want you to send your request, and it's basically saying that every time you send a message, you have to provide the full history of the conversation up until that point. And this is, we're jumping right into the deep end of the Bubble API connector here. Do check out our earlier videos to show more basic setups of what you'll need. But this is taking me about half an hour to get working, and I'm going to show you how I've done it. So if I go into the Bubble API connector, I've got an OpenAI connection set up, and this is my the body of my JSON object. And part of the challenge of this is that we need to provide this format, like role with system or user assistant, every time we send a request, and we have to keep a history of it, and we have to do that in a way of ensuring that our JSON syntax is correct, that it's not going to cause any errors. So I've simply set it up that I can enter in my API called everything in the messages section. I just have a value set up there. Let's have a look at my page. So I've got a multi-line input, a button, and a repeating group. I've created a content type called message, and let's have a look what happens when you click the button. So I create a new message, and the message has got two fields for storing text. One is the plain text, that's as the user enters it into the multi-line input, and then I have a second field here, which is my way of generating the necessary syntax and parameters to create a line just like this as detailed in the documentation. So you can see here that I've also got an option set called GPT role, and I've got the different roles, the user, system, and assistant. So I'm simply printing user in that space there, and then goes in my multi-line input. That's what my user has entered, and then so that I can display it in, have a bit of control over how I display it in my repeating group, I'm also saving the what do they call it? The role. There we go. Is it system? Is it user? Or is it the assistant? I'm saving that as a option set field with my message. I then send the API request to OpenAI, and I do this by searching through messages. And you might want to group these in conversations, but I've just kept it simple for this demo. And then I say each item's JSON, and so that is where I've generated this line here. And then I say join with a comma and a space. If we look at here we go. If we look at the JSON syntax here, we can see that it needs to join every statement with a comma and a space. One of the errors I see people making all the time with JSON is that you want to put a comma in after the final bit. No, you don't. You have a comma between every statement. So that's got the formatting right, and that prints it. And by doing a search for, I get the history of all the messages sent previously. I then create a new message. This is my reply. So I've set the GPT role as assistant. I then have to go through the same process of formatting it. So I say role is assistant, and the content is the response of the OpenAI, choices, first item, message content, and trimmed. And I've added trimmed in there because sometimes the response you get back can have a space or a line break at the start of it. That just clears out anything that isn't text from the start and finish of the text that's returned. I then also do the same thing, and I store this as plain text. Lastly, I reset my inputs ready to take another input into the app. So let's check it. Let's see if this is history-aware conversational AI. So I can ask it, how tall is the Shard in London? And and I get a factual statement back from the assistant. And then let's say, is it the tallest building in London? So I'm saying is it because I'm checking to see whether whether my API request to OpenAI is aware of the previous history of the conversation that I'm talking about the shard. Let's see if this works. Yes, the shard is currently the tallest building in London. So there we go, we've got it working. The last bit I'm going to show, in case anyone feels that I've missed anything, is I've got my repeating group of search for messages, and all I'm doing is printing the current sales message GPT role. So that's showing the user or the assistant, and then I'm printing the plain message beneath it. So there you have it. That is one way that I've been thinking of over the last 48 hours of how to format the JSON correctly so that you have that conversational, that history aware approach and methodology for using the OpenAI ChatGPT API.